I don't know mentally what came over me to go from being a cop to being a boudoir photographer. My favorite part of the shoot is actually when the clients first come in. They're always telling me like, oh, I don't like this thing or I don't like that thing. And I'm just like, sure. Right after we start getting into it, it's like the shed of all that weight that they put on themselves just comes off like within a couple frames. We gotta show them the back of my camera. They are absolutely stunned.
That tension of like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna look good in this, but I'm like really stepping out. Is this gonna like help me or hurt me?
And there's definitely an expectation that the person wants you to make them look like a model.
What do you charge?
So my average sale is $1,500. You can put on lingerie and stand in front of your mirror, but it's not going to be the same as getting these photos taken of you. It's just not.
What sets you apart in that you are getting referrals more than anything else?
I do get asked that question a lot, and I'm still kind of like,
Today, I sit down with Sam from Maroon Rook Photography, a boudoir studio based out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Ever since I met Sam, I was so curious about the back end of her business. Going into this episode, I had no idea what to expect, but Sam brought the numbers, the facts, and all the expertise. So if you're interested in how to build a photography business, this episode is for you. Well, welcome back to the Silo Podcast. I'm Austin, and I'm here with...
I'm Samantha from Maroon Rook Photography.
Come on, Sam. We've gone probably way back, maybe like 2 or 3 years at this point.
Yeah, I think like 2.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know like how that happened, that like we're still in a room and now I've got you on a podcast. And I feel like a lot of people have misconceptions about you because you're quiet. I don't know. I can label a ton of stuff, but for me, it was like, man, I know I can like break you out of like this quiet shell potentially. And I don't know, I got you on the podcast. I pressured you last year. And it didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, that was in person in front of a whole group. So I was like, oh no. Yeah, that got my stage fright going. But in the intimate setting, I'm a little bit better.
Yeah.
I am pretty quiet for sure. I'm just a reserved kind of person that likes to survey the area that I'm in first. But it really helps me out with my job, like working as a boudoir photographer, because it's just more intimate setting anyway. So
it's like the art of like seeing and noticing those small things. And like, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people come in with like some insecurity about themselves potentially. And you're probably the biggest hype man.
Oh
like,
yeah, for
imaginable
sure.
For that.
Yeah. Like I might be really quiet and reserved when you first meet me, but then I am going to be like making a total fool of myself during your session for sure. So yeah.
But do you notice like that's something that like comes with knowing yourself, like knowing that sometimes you need to be brought out of these moments where, hey, I don't know. I feel like for me, I'm like, I know I'm an introvert. So I know that what other introverts maybe need. And maybe that's projecting a little bit, but like a lot of the time it's, hey, I know I'm an introvert. This needs to be like ice needs to be broken for like actual things to make happen.
Yeah, I mean, like just because you're quiet doesn't mean that you're not confident. Like I feel like I am pretty self-aware and confident person, but it's just that I'm not gonna give that energy to everyone.
Yeah,
you know. But I definitely encourage people to try to do things that they wouldn't typically do, because that's how you stop yourself from having all that anxiety about like meeting new people or like breaking out of your shell and doing things like that. Like you just have to do it. You know.
It's all about like, yeah, you said it so perfectly. You just got to do it. Like you got to start. Like how did you get your start in all of this? Because I think I know where I've heard about your last job or like where you were before this. And I'm like, how did you get there? So can you walk me through like that creative journey that got you where you are?
Okay. So I like to say that I have lived many, many lives. I'm like a cat. Okay. I have been so many different jobs in my 32 years of life. I have been EMS. I did the fire department. I was a police officer.
That's what I remember.
I worked in mental health. Like I've done a lot of public service jobs with like helping people and things like that. When I had my children, I decided that I was going to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom, but I was way too bored and I just really need to like socialize with people. And so I decided that I needed to find something with a flexible schedule. And I did have some experience with modeling, specifically lingerie modeling. And so when I decided to do photography, boudoir kind of spoke to me just because I did feel confident having some sort of experience with it already. So that's how I kind of transitioned. Now, I don't know mentally what came over me to go from being a cop to being
That's what I
a
was
boudoir
trying to head.
photographer, but I do get asked that question a lot, and I'm still kind of like, brains do weird things.
Yeah.
Like they somehow just segue.
What age was that switch, if you're okay to ask?
So I stopped being on patrol after I had my first son, which was around 28. And then I started boudoir photography at 30. So it was just like a couple years of being bored in the house and then, transitioned. So.
And like, tell me more about like your boudoir space. Like, obviously you've gone through an iteration of moving into a new house, but like how obviously you said you had interest and experience doing the modeling for that, but then moving into photographing, how does that translate? Like, obviously, yeah.
So being in front of the camera, you are really aware of your body and like what looks good in posing, like how you should, look at the light and things like that. So I did have some fundamentals about like where light should be versus the person and like how to pose and like the body mechanics of posing, like what it feels like when you're doing poses, like in terms of your muscles and stuff. So that was easier to transition into being behind the camera then and like having to like explain poses to people or like put them into lighting and things like that. The hardest part for me was actually just like learning how to function the camera. Like I've never had a camera that was a real camera other than just like one of those early 2000s point and snap ones,
which are coming back, right?
Yeah. So I had to like, I just went all in with it. I just decided I was going to shoot on manual. I was going to learn Kelvin. Like I do all of it. I don't let the camera do anything for me, which actually helped really, really well when I started transitioning into different areas to shoot. Like I got really used to my house, but then if I went to like the older wiser events that she held and stuff. I had to like learn how to shoot in that environment then, which is totally different. And then just like even going to silo, like doing things outside is totally different, but I feel really good now about my ability to just take, especially boudoir photography, like at any point, any studio, wherever I go. But I do love my house.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I've seen you've been, I feel like you shoot a lot in like Maryland. Did I see like the studios that you're tagging and stuff like that? There's some in Maryland, a lot in like Philly or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I do travel a lot. And I will shoot like when I go out there. Most of the time if I'm traveling and I do a shoot, it's at like whatever my Airbnb or hotel is and things like that. I sometimes get a studio, but I really do prefer like my house for boudoir just because I have everything there.
Yeah, and you also have like a client closet kind of deal.
Yeah.
For
the
all that.
Closet is crazy. It's everyone's favorite thing when they come to my house. Even my like family members, they just like to go in there and be like, "Wow, this is a lot," like slight bit of judgment, but the rest is love,
Sure.
So,
yeah.
But yeah.
What makes like your house the perfect spot?
Well, I just like that like no one else can have the same kind of photos. Like when you rent a studio out, it's great because everything's there and the lighting is great. Like that's the reason it was made into a studio. But when you have your own space that no one else can utilize, it's like no one else can create these pictures remotely even close to yours. So I just enjoy that. Plus I try so hard to not spend all of my money on the aesthetic of my house, but it's kind of fun. My husband doesn't like that I'm constantly buying all these new things. I'm like, I need this for photography, but
business expense,
yeah, it's fun.
Right?
Yeah. So
yeah, but obviously I'm saying obviously a lot. That's going to come up a lot, I guess. But in general, I think what sets you apart in my head is like, obviously, said it again. It's in your house. You have the client closet. I mean, I know very little about the space. Can you inform me more about like where people are like finding you? Like, are they finding you online? Is it like from your work somewhere else? You're getting booked and you're traveling to these Airbnbs that you're going to. Are people reaching out in those areas and then you go to them?
For the most part, people come to me.
Yeah.
I, you know, book people. I mostly through Google, actually.
Okay.
A lot less on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, and it's just because of the censorship that those platforms have. So Google is definitely the most.
It's like when people search for like boudoir photographer, Lancaster.
Yeah, and then word of mouth is probably the number one. A lot of people see them and they show their friends, and then their friends want to do it. Or
well, that comes from your client experience then. Like obviously you're like doing an amazing job like hanging out with them, and they obviously have to feel empowered when they leave. Can you talk on like what that looked like? What sets you apart in that you are getting referrals more than anything else?
Yeah, so my favorite part of the shoot is actually when the clients first come in, because they are super, super nervous and they like are unsure of themselves, and they have just like no confidence about their body. And they're always telling me like, oh, I don't like this thing or I don't like that thing about themselves. And I'm just like, sure. Yeah. And then right after we start getting into it, it's like the shed of all that weight that they put on themselves by telling themselves constantly and being in this mindset that they are like imperfect and I have to lose weight and I have acne or whatever. It's like all of that just comes off like within a couple frames. You got to show them the back of my camera where it's like not edited at all. Like this is just what you look like. They are absolutely stunned. And then from there, it's like this crazy, like they're just ready to just take off all their clothes. Like it's like the most craziest transformation right in front of your eyes every single shoot. And that's what makes it so much fun. And also just like, I think they really get a lot out of that mentally, because it's like a lot of people have never done a boudoir shoot and they never get to see themselves in that light. Like you can put on lingerie and stand in front of your mirror, but it's not going to be the same as getting these photos taken of you. It's just not.
Can we back up and tell me what that looks like when someone reaches out to you then? Because they're really nervous. Does that like that tension of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to look good in this, but I'm like really stepping out I want to get photos of myself. Is this going to like help me or hurt me? Like, am I going to get photos back from Sam and say, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. That's whatever your price is down the drain. Like, I feel like there's a lot more tension than like a family shoot where they're like, oh, family shoots, as long as we're all in frame, it's cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's definitely an expectation that the person wants you to make them look like a model. And I've never had someone like be disappointed whatsoever.
Come on.
I look, knock on wood, okay? But it's all about like just being able to represent everyone on your page too. Like I don't want to be the photographer that only shoots with people that look exactly the same. You know, they're all like little skinny minis and things. I want to represent everyone. I want anyone to feel comfortable coming to me and being in my studio and having a good time and seeing themselves, you know, like they never have before.
Can you tell me like a magic moment that you've experienced in the last year of like, do you have a story of like one client that really turned around? You don't have to say the name or anything, but like was like, yo, listen, I'm here. This is all I got. But then you went away, like, just come on, I'm going to post these everywhere.
So I don't have a specific story, but it's mostly because like, that's pretty much every client. Unless they have done it before at somewhere, at some point in their lives, pretty much every client is just totally like in their own head and having total anxiety attack pretty much when they come in. You can tell by just the amount of emails they send you beforehand because they're like unsure about everything. But then it is just amazing to see how quickly like that transformation happens then. It's literally that first picture that I showed them.
I was gonna say, do you make an effort that like, hey, this is like my magic sauce of like, if you were nervous, I show you the camera, what your first photos look like, and they're like,
they're stunned. They're stunned. Yes. I make sure it's like only a couple frames in. So it's like right away they see. But like I said, I make a complete fool of myself. I'll be like yelling, "Hey girl, you look so good," and like stuff. Totally doesn't go with like what people think of me when they first meet me at all. But yeah, but it's the mixture of that energy in the room just like really amps up like how their confidence and how they feel about themselves in the moment. And then when they see the pictures, it's like it kind of all comes together with how they felt, and then like hopefully that puts them on the road to like gaining more confidence and feeling better about their body and things like that.
Yeah. The environment plays a whole like good role in that too, I'm sure, because you dedicated a space in your house to like have the best lighting and have like what they would want in their photos. Can you speak on like what did you do to your house or your home or that space to like make it a good spot for boudoir?
So I actually decided where everything was going to go in the house, but in a way that is like really close to the windows and things like that. Like I was like, when I made the house and designed the house, because we did build the house, I specifically kind of made areas where like, you know, I was like, I'm going to use this a lot for shooting and everything. But or like I just don't hang up artwork on the walls, depending on what it is. I try to make it look neutral, but also like my aesthetic, I guess.
What is that?
It's kind of like organic farmhousey. It's kind of hard to describe. I mean, you can definitely see it on my page for sure. A lot of like different wood tones, more neutral, like gray, white, green is definitely featured
it helps,
a lot.
Like accentuate the person in the room rather than like make it so much about the room itself. But at the same time, it is your space and people can see that from the photos that come out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I utilize the whole house. So I don't keep any rooms except for like one room that's like off limits. But yeah, I utilize the whole house. So I am constantly experimenting and moving things around and trying to make it, you know, fresh and like fun for everyone. So
now it's not only it's not only like a hobby for you at this point. I feel like it's like grown into something that's bigger than what you dreamed about it when it was, you know, when you were 30 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I mean, I did want it to be a business, but when everyone starts things, they're like unsure of themselves. Like, am I going to be even good at taking photos? And businesses, you know, they fail all the time. Well, they don't fail; they just pause. Really, you can always reroute, but you're just kind of like don't know where to start and how do I go from not making money to making money and things like that. And you just kind of have to like just jump in and do it.
Yeah. It's a common theme of like just start. But like what did that look like for you? Like what from zero money to now I feel like I can charge for this?
So since I didn't even know how to work the camera, I just invested in doing a mentorship. So I just contacted another photographer that I knew, and I knew that she did boudoir and I knew she would help me. So I just paid for her mentorship program, and you know, it is an investment, but it's definitely worth it because it basically like light speed jumps you into like the right direction and you just get more instruction on like even the business side of things. You don't always have to YouTube your way into figuring out everything. You can ask for help. And so that's kind of how I started. And then right after that, I just the growth that I had in my photos, just with someone actually physically teaching me, just made my confidence like boost into the like, okay, I think I can actually charge people for these pictures because they are like pretty good, you know? And it's only gotten better since then.
100%.
So, but yeah, and I definitely advocate for people like charging their worth. Like just because you're new doesn't mean that you can do pictures for like $10. Like you can charge more. You're never gonna be able to survive off of $10.
Yeah.
So
how did you get to a point where you're charging whatever your amount is? And if we can go into it and go that deep, what do you charge?
So my average sale is $1,500 for my basically 1 hour session. It does include a lot of different things in packages and things. But how I got to that route is that not only did I just get better at editing and like shooting and learning my camera and my style and everything, but I also just took a lot of time to like sit down on the business end and really go through my cost of doing business and like what my family needs. Like if you really want to be serious about it being a business, you not only have to be good at whatever the art is or the service you're providing, but you also have to be really realistic about like what your actual needs are, not only as a business, but as just a person.
Yeah.
So
it's like, do you do volume at 500 or do you do like high quality stuff at 1500? That's a sliding scale, obviously.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
It does come with like the cost of doing business, which I urge like anyone who's just starting out, you have to figure that out.
You have to figure that out.
If you're not at that point where you have to figure that out, it's like, it's still a hobby. I feel like.
Yeah, it is. It really is still a hobby.
Until you need that money, it is like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously this is going to be totally different for every person, but like as a mom, I knew that there was no way I could do 15 shoots in a month. Like I just don't have time for that. So if I did, I could charge less, but I can't do that. So like I knew that about 6 to 8 shoots a month was probably my maximum amount, more around 6. And like that's good enough for me at the moment.
6 at 1500, pretty good.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying like,
and studio, so it's year round, you're not based on temperature, outside stuff.
The best thing about Boudoir is like, you don't have to worry about it really. Even if it's raining and cloudy, doesn't matter. You can still do it. So
that's so awesome. I literally did not know how much you charged, and that's honestly so cool to hear that like you're at 1500 price point. What are the deliverables for that? I mean, obviously there's a lot more that goes into like the experience. So what is the experience and what do you get for 1500?
Okay, so you get your hair and makeup automatically in the package. That package would come with an album with at least 20 digital files. And then you get like access to my client closet, which has over 400 pieces of lingerie in all different sizes, shapes, colors. I have different add-ons that are bonus sets like honey and fun things. And then you get my prep guide, you get how like the posing experience that I have, my facial expression guidance, like just my experience in general. And then of course the professional editing. So it's more the experience and the time that it takes to do, because boudoir, when you are, half naked, you like your skin, like editing is a lot different for editing skin than it is for just like
you do like frequency separation. Like, do you go that deep or is it like less?
So I actually don't use any Photoshop, and I'm principled about this because I just think that
it's more natural.
It's natural. And I also I want the person to look at the photo and think, this is me, not this is like some better, like version of myself that's like meant to be in a magazine or something. Like I want them to still see that little bit amount of flaws so that they actually like the flaw and not just like, they're like, this is an awful thing that I have.
Sure.
Now, obviously, I do edit in like their skin a little bit with like people have pimples. They're not always there, But
I think a general rule of thumb I go by is like if it can be gone by 2 weeks, it's something that can be edited.
Yeah,
out,
exactly.
I have a pimple on my forehead. I'm not going to say, oh, that's me. It's not. It's something that comes and goes. So
so I do edit like their skin in terms of that stuff, but like I'm not gonna go and liquefy your body or anything like that to change what you look like. This is, I want them to love who they are, so.
I mean, that's the whole point of boudoir, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's about like a little bit of self-empowerment.
Yeah. And a lot of people want to do a boudoir shoot at first because they have a partner or something and they think that, oh, my partner would really love these photos and things like that. But I really find that during the shoot, when they're feeling really good about it and they see the pictures afterward, that they really realize that like it was actually more for themselves too.
Do you feel like that realization is a good majority of the time too, on top of on top of that?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. That's probably why I get so many reviews too. Because it's not the husbands or the boyfriends giving me the reviews. They're the ones that just take it upon themselves to do that, because they had such a good time.
Ready to launch your idea, grow your side hustle, or dive into your passion full time? Pursuit Co-working in the heart of Midtown Harrisburg gives you the flexibility you want, productivity you need, and community you crave, kind of like us. Whether you need to work, meet, or gather, their hourly, daily, and monthly options will fit your bill perfectly. I can truly say working with them has been an amazing opportunity to meet other people who are also doing the creative side hustle work that I'm doing. So if you need to check that out, it's really worth your time. Follow your pursuit and tap the link in the description to schedule a tour today.
We talked about how like the environment of your studio like matters a lot, but what is the landscape of like this area? People don't know York, Lancaster, Harrisburg is like a mecca for like creative work. So how like you're doing 6 to 8 shoots a month. How are you getting that many clients? Like, do you feel like there's a bottleneck of this area, or is it like you feel great?
I mean, I feel like it's actually really hard to get people that are actually from the small towns of Pennsylvania to come and do a boudoir shoot specifically, just because it is considered still like taboo, I guess.
Definitely in a more like conservative area of Pennsylvania too.
So I do have a lot more people from out of town that come from like Philly or Wilmington, Delaware, or from Allentown or somewhere in Maryland. And I think that happens a lot because the photographers in those bigger cities are definitely charging a lot more just because of the cost of living there and things. And so they are kind of looking for something that's more affordable to them, which I know we talked about the $1,500. That might not be affordable to someone in Lancaster, but in someone in Philly, it's probably
it's
fine, So it really just depends. But I definitely think that because it is a smaller town, it actually is kind of difficult. I wish it wasn't, but also I found a lot of people that don't know about boudoir photography because it is so censored. I've run into people at like Pride and things like that are just like, I didn't know that people took pictures like this. So I don't know if that has something to do with the area being so conservative too, but I would like for it to become more popular for sure.
I mean, that's interesting because it's like you have people then like coming in from out of town to a cheaper spot, but you feel like the price is good-ish. I mean, you probably could always charge more, right? But like $1,500 to me is like, wow, okay, yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting that they're fleeing those like high-paying cities, but we're also so tapped into like being only an hour and a half or whatever away from Philly, or an hour from Baltimore. So it's actually kind of nice that like those areas are like either oversaturated or charge a lot, that people can actually come and find refuge kind of close to home.
Yeah. I mean, even on my website, I list all the times it takes to get from like Baltimore, from Washington, from Wilmington, from Philly. And I write on there like Amtrak ride. Like I'm literally like giving them all the information they need to know.
You don't even need to do any research.
To get here. Yes, exactly. And I think that, it is nice for them because not only are they going to go and have like this day to themselves, it's like you get to travel this nice place. You can go eat, you kind of get your day away. You get your hair and makeup done. You get kind of like pampered and stuff. You get these sexy ass photos. Oops, sorry. And then you can go home and like return to your normal life, but it's kind of like a little adventure for the people that come from out of town.
That's true. Lancaster's a great place. I can't deny it. As I moved over here, I'm just like, there's so much to do, especially if it's a day trip. It's like so easy to find a cute little like cafe to go to or restaurant to end your day at. So what time actually do you like normally book your shoots for? Because like you're in a studio, but obviously light is still important because you're at like the windows. Yeah. Is it like after dinner time? Like
it's actually at 11 a.m. That's when I start. So they'll get
that's
there.
A shocker,
they'll get there at 11 a.m. They'll do their hair and makeup. So that usually takes about an hour and a half ish. And then right after that, we get into shooting. So
wow, it's like straight up midday.
Right in midday. Yeah.
What's the reason for that?
Because I don't want any light actually directly coming in through the windows, casting like shadows very much, unless I'm really going for that look. But for the most part, I want a nice like diffused light. And I personally have kind of shifted away from, when I first started, I used to hang like shears in the windows and stuff, but I actually don't prefer that anymore. Just because of just the way it looks. I feel like it looks cleaner to not have the shears, just my personal opinion. So now I've kind of shifted away to just having like just the straight window.
Okay.
And so because of that, I just need the sun to be like directly over the house pretty much. So it's just like only getting kind of like an ambient light kind of going on. Because my house does face south. So a lot of the windows are like, bam, right in the sun all day. So yeah, that's.
What does it look like to be a wife and run a business and, you know, just empower people, and like what slice of the pie do you need to like provide for the family? Like what does your business model look like just in general?
So my business model, like I pretty much, we use the money from our business, not only to just pay for the business, but also just to be the majority of the supplemental income for like things like the back to school shopping and the trips and things like that. Because my husband does also work full time. So he pays for like the other bill, like the survival bills.
Sure.
Yeah.
The survival bills.
But you know, we did just build this house. So
yeah,
that's going to be a lot of paying back.
Did you have to like ramp? Did you feel like you wanted to or should ramp up like more shoots to like help pay for that? I'm just curious in general.
If I could, I would, but I just don't think that would be possible. I mean, as a mom, I'm the primary full-time parent. I mean, I stay home with them. I have them majority of the time. And then I also like, I am in school, so I'm finishing my degree. So I have
going
that
for? What?
Emergency management.
Oh,
funny,
sick.
right? It's like we're just going along with this public service, and then I'm like boudoir photographer on top. But yeah, so I have school.
Awesome.
I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I have the business, and then I do fun things like go to the silo events and things. And then also I travel so much. I try to do it like once a month. Even if it's just like a weekend, just to give myself a little bit of time to myself, because being a mom is hard.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I am very busy. So if I had to take on even more shoots, that would be.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, especially when the shoots are like midday, it's not like you can do much else. Like, you know, if it was at dinner time, you could have a full, you know, day to yourself and then do your shoot in the evening. Like most like portrait shoots are at sunset kind of deal.
Yeah.
But no, you're like dead in the middle of the day.
Right in the middle. And my clients are usually with me, you know, around 4-ish hours. And so it's like a lot of the day is taken up by doing that. I mean, I have to prepare the house, since I do it in my house. Like I have to clean the house, put all my children's toys away, and
that's 7 hours of the day, right?
Yeah, get everything ready for the client to come and everything. So, I mean, and then after they leave, I have to clean up and all that. So it does take quite a few hours of my day every time I have a shoot.
Well, tell me more about like the travel and like the self-care that goes into all the stuff that you're doing, all the titles you put on yourself, all the titles that others put on you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weight. You already said that you do a lot and you have a lot going on. Like, how do you recover from that kind of stuff?
So for me personally, I decide that I'm not going to let the titles that everyone always gives me like define what I actually am. Like, best way to describe this is like, I am a mom, but I can also be like sexy. And that's what I try to like promote to my clients too, because they're always like, oh, well, I had 2 kids and I should like be more modest and all this. And I'm like, says who?
Yeah. Those are like limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah. Like you're only limiting yourself anytime you do anything. Like you're your own worst enemy. You're the one that's holding yourself back. Like, if you could just change that mindset into like, okay, so I'm not failing, I'm just pausing, or I'm rerouting, or I'm, you know, figuring things out, I'm learning from mistakes. Like you can change all of those things that you feel about you and like actually be successful. And that includes like everything. like being a successful business owner, a parent, a wife, a husband, a whatever. It's really just all about like you believing that you can so that way you can do it instead of just like thinking like, oh, well, I am, late to stuff, or I'm not good enough in some way, or I'm not providing some sort of service to someone like your husband or your wife or whatever that like makes them happy all the time. So like I must be failing. And it's like, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
It's
a lot less of like the world is happening to you and you like changing that to I'm changing the world in some way. Like you have the whatever the word is, locus of control that is more outward facing of like, hey, the titles and the labels that the world is giving me don't need to apply, because a lot of the time the world is putting these heavy titles on you that do limit your beliefs, or whatever husband means to you is different than the next person, but the word husband comes with a lot of weight to it. You have to be the anchor of the family, blah blah blah, whatever that looks like. And that doesn't have to be like, all of these titles are different for every individual.
Yeah. They are exactly how you define them in your mind. It doesn't matter what everybody else thinks about them, or what they decide like you should be. Like those boxes, they just need to be broken down because they're pointless at this point.
Yeah.
Like when I started staying at home as a stay-at-home mom, I absolutely hated telling people that I was a stay-at-home mom because I felt so like inadequate. I felt like being a stay-at-home mom was not something that's like worthy almost. Like I just felt very bothered because I like wasn't contributing to my family, which is absolutely absurd. Because
when you say that, I'm like, you're either paying someone else's wife or husband or whatever to watch your kids, or you can do it yourself. And less money or more money exchanged, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. But all that was just me limiting my mindset about it. Like ultimately I am seeing my children grow up right in front of my eyes. I'm teaching them everything that they need to know to be successful adults, and I am providing all the things that they need to survive, and thrive as children need. And I'm doing that 24/7 and running a business and going to school.
That's what I was going to say. Like you are not just doing the stay-at-home mom stuff. You are doing the stay-at-home mom plus businesswoman plus getting a degree. Like you're doing like way more than like anyone would ask of you, or even if that was something they would ask you, you're like exceeding all expectations in that way.
Yeah.
You're doing so much, all while still being way more present than a lot of people could be if they had a normal job.
Yeah. And I think anyone can do that. Like you can create the life that you want to create. You really can. And like you just need to believe in yourself and decide that you're going to take that step to doing it, because if not, you're just going to stay stagnant, stay complaining, and stay in this space in your brain that you can't ever be like this other person. You can't ever do the things that they get to do, And I think that's worse with like in this generation with like Instagram and stuff, you just get so much envy about other people's lives. And it's like, if you want to go do that, then you can like make the choices to go actively do that. And, don't limit yourself by saying like, oh, well, I just don't have money. Okay, well, find a way to make money. Like you just have to like problem solve and multitask and stay focused on your goal, and it's like eventually you'll get there. I mean,
how do you rewire? Let's take a step back. How do you think you rewire your brain to like not be so, oh man, I really just can't do what Sam's doing. Like she is a mom, a business owner, and going to school. There's no way I could do this. Like what would you say to that person?
I'd say that they need to just have some more support, not only for themselves, but also like from other people. Because I think that if you, like when I didn't know how to work a camera, I went and I got a mentorship. It's like I supported myself by getting someone to support me, And so I think that I try to encourage that in other people. Like some of the people I've met at Silo, I've messaged them before and say like, I see them posting about not getting clients or prices and things like that, and I will just message them and be like, you need to charge more. Like
Yeah.
I'll just I just try to like push
And we
them in that
need
direction,
people like
you know,
in our lives.
Yeah.
Because some people don't have that. So like I'm so glad that you're able to, like, I love a good straightforward like punch to the gut. Like you'll hear me being like, no, you got to tell me like it raw, or I don't want to hear like the sugar coated stuff. So it's really important. Like, while there is like a loving way to obviously say that stuff, like it's important to be like, no, man, you're literally not charging enough to live. So figure that out.
Yeah. Well, and also just like, you know, your confidence gets like grows when someone's actually willing to pay for your product. Okay. So like my first studio video I made, my videographer that came to do that, he charged me like some tiny amount, and I actually doubled that and gave it to him just because I just felt like it was worth that at least. And so I was trying to just encourage him to be like, you need to go off and do better things and charge more money, and you're going to get better because you're going to get better clients, like, and things like that. So, and he actually, now I'm like, I see his stuff and I'm like, you're working with all these businesses.
Yes,
like,
I remember.
Yes. So I'm just like, that's amazing. I hope that I kind of like tiny little bit helped that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I mean, and all it takes is that small push or small like reassurance to like believe in yourself even 2 times what you were before.
Yeah.
So like it makes a difference when you can have the confidence in yourself to know that like, I don't even care that I'm paying this person $2,000 instead of what they asked $1,000. Like, listen, that's going to exponentially come back to me and to them in the future, knowing that they could remember me for the small thing I did. Not that it's about you in the first place when that happens, but there's such like it'll all just come back to you kind of thing that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's business karma.
Yeah.
There is. You should definitely help when you are successful. It's like, you should come back and try to make other people successful. You don't need to gatekeep and like keep all the secrets and all this stuff.
We could get into that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm like competition, or I'm a community over competition person. Okay.
Bang, bang,
so
bang. Come
yeah,
on.
I don't want to be that person that's like, oh my gosh, I'm not sharing any of my stuff. Like, I don't care.
What is that? Like, what in the boudoir space, does that happen a lot? Do you feel like, I know nothing about it, do you feel like there's a lot of like really snappy people that are just like not willing to go deep with people or share their knowledge? Or
I feel like there actually is a lot of people that want other photographers to succeed, especially female photographers for other female photographers. Because, you know, we make other females more comfortable, and there should just be more of us doing this type of work. But I also feel like there are some photographers out there that I've seen that like, they do get really upset if someone does a shoot or a shot that is like inspired. It's clearly inspired because it's like very similar, you know, but it's like, but the thing is that like, that is not your work and that's not their work. It's like it doesn't matter if it's exactly the same pose. It's like, there's only so many poses. And then also just, you know, you should be happy that someone took what you made and they made it their own, and they were just like inspired by your work. So it really just depends. I feel like it's 50-50, which is probably what it is for all genres of photography, where people are kind of like competitive and things like that. Boudoir though is really interesting in terms of how people conduct their business. I feel like it's just it's varied. Okay. It's very varied. So like there are really successful boudoir photographers that don't have a studio at all. They just travel all around everywhere, and they charge people like thousands upon thousands of dollars for shoots. And they are like booked out years in advance, like even more than like weddings, you know, and people really want to work with them, and they're super helpful to the other photographers in the community. They're like offering tons of mentorships and guides and all this. Like you can tell that like, they're just like, I'm successful and you can be too. And I love that. So I'm hoping maybe one day I'll get to that status. I don't know. That's intense. Intense.
So travel is kind of maybe on the horizon for like getting to more different spots and stuff like that for people.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That's the goal.
Yeah, for sure.
Still home base in Lancaster, or like you like fully commit to travel life.
Oh no. I mean, I have kids. I got to have a
Right.
home base for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, it would be really fun to like travel and like go to like foreign countries and shoot with them and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, that'd be
Is
awesome.
that like the next step? I mean, do you want to get into like mentorships at all? Do you ever arrive at a point where you're like, I can teach people, or is it imposter syndrome until the end?
I mean, I would love to teach people. Like, I definitely would. I do feel like I am too green to teach people. I mean, I feel like I could teach someone, but I would not. I would feel bad like charging them money for it, which is funny because I just said charge your worth earlier. But it's just that I am such a, like, I've only been doing photography for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So
But your page
just
is like
feel-
grown insane. I mean, you're doing great.
yeah. But I just feel like actually teaching someone is just, I feel like they want you to have more experience, you know, if that makes sense. Like, so
At the same time, they're coming to you because of who you are right now.
Yeah.
There's no promise that Sam is going to be 10 times greater next year. So like they're coming to you for what you're producing right now.
That's true. I mean, maybe if someone asked me, I would be comfortable with it, but I don't think I would just like offer the service for right now.
No.
Yeah.
Does that seem to be like the next step though? Like, could you see yourself like I said, people don't arrive anywhere. It's always a journey, no matter where you're still going up. You can pause, like you said, but is that like, could you see yourself turning it into some kind of education? And not fully, but like, would there be a part of your business that would turn into like an online course, or, you know, or one-on-one mentors?
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, for sure. I can definitely, I feel like I already have kind of like teaching sensibilities with me being a mom. And then also just like every client that comes in has zero experience in what they're doing. And so I have to get in the pose. I have to teach them where you put your hand. How do you have your face? You know, like
you have the
things
reps
like
for
that.
it.
So
You do it every shoot.
I do it every
sounds
shoot.
like.
So like I definitely could do that like with someone that's taking photos, you know. It's just it's implementing all these things when you have ideas for your businesses. And
I hear you. I mean, just to give you even more applause, like I've seen you like help pose models at shoots. I've seen you like instruct photographers, like, oh, come down to this angle and shoot up this way. We saw you on a ladder at a fall cap one time, I think. Like you're doing the things, which I think is super cool. But yeah, it's just insane. I want to give you major props because you do have all of the fundamentals, all of the skills to do it. And I think it'd be super cool to see you take that on. Do people actually tell you like, oh, the camera did really good? Or like, I don't know how the people say that, but
yeah, I mean, I've had people say like your camera takes great pictures. And I'm thinking like the camera did not do anything. So, but yeah.
It's so crazy that people say like that the camera did stuff.
Yeah.
I never resonated with that until I became a photographer. I'm like, I hate that people say that to me.
Yeah.
And it's not like all the time, but it's like, if you knew what was going on.
Yeah. It's like when someone is like doing framing for a house and they're like, that hammer is amazing. And you're like, oh yeah.
You don't blame
it just
the tool
jumped
for
up
that.
and started doing all the nails.
It's all the talent is in your head. The talent is the art of framing, the art of composition, all that stuff. And the cameras are the tools that we use to execute on those visions.
Yeah, because if it was just the camera doing it, then every single person's pictures would look exactly the same. There wouldn't be any different artistic style or like the way that you know, put people in the light and like things like that. Like it would just be like, oh, with the camera, just every single Canon is taking the exact same photo because that's just, you know, what it does.
Oh, cameras just do stuff. you
Yeah.
know? And when you go to edit, oh, I love that filter you added. Sam,
Yeah.
thank you so much for adding that filter.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's no filter. This is not a filter.
This is not an Instagram filter that I just plugged into Instagram, slid over, and was like, oh yeah, Rio de Janeiro went really well with this photo. That you took.
Yeah. I also don't use other people's presets.
Yeah, so you use your own?
Yeah.
You made your own over the
like
years.
just over time, it just kind of evolved as I learned how to edit and things like that.
I imagine they're pretty dialed then, because if you're in your space at the same time,
Yeah. So
it's pretty
they
good.
are, yeah. I don't think they would ever work if I ever sent them to anyone else. But for my house, like when I moved into the new house, I had to change them because it did not have the same lighting and things in the areas that I typically would shoot in like the old house. It just didn't, the house faced a different direction. The time of day in the older house, because the ceilings were lower, there wasn't as many windows and things, like I had to shoot a little bit later in the day. Like I would start around 1. So it just like, just the colors of the walls and the wood tones and everything, how the things bounced off of each other and the lighting. When I moved into the new house, I had to like use my presets, but like just change them in a way that worked for different areas. Sure. So my presets are literally labeled around my house, like hallway, bedroom, bathroom. Like I'm literally like, that's how it is. So now it's like, no matter where we are, as soon as I see the room that we're in, it's like, that's the one that's going on there. And then I just make the adjustment based off of,
That's
so
crazy.
that's how refined it is. That's why it's.
Oh my gosh. What does that, well then what does that process look like then in editing? Is it literally just like, hey, hallway, and then, shadow, exposure,
yeah, like exposure
contrast.
adjustment a little bit. Yeah. I'll adjust the Kelvin a little bit depending on what like if it was a little bit sunnier that day or if it was more cloudy or something. But otherwise, I pretty much just edit the person's skin then. Yeah. Yeah. Or like tags and stuff. So
yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that could even be like so dialed, because not a ton of people have home studios, first of all.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. Like you are literally in control of everything. Everything is, and then people will say, oh, you should have, oh, these are super easy presets to throw on. It's like, no, you still probably spent, the greater half of your 2 years doing this, refining them. So it's not like, it isn't just like still a one click. It's years of honing them in to get them to that point. Yeah. I feel like people still like critique photographers for like, oh, your presets are so like dialed in that they're one click. It's like, no, like in the same way that like I'm skilled where I'm at right now, it's because of the years of education that I went through to get to this point where I'm super efficient. People don't like realize that like you might get a fast turnaround now, but that's only because of the years of 4-month turnarounds or whatever you might have went through in the past, or like terrible challenges that you faced. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When I first started, I definitely used other people's presets because I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out, but yeah, after years, you really like, you can really hone in on like your style, what you want the look to look like and like everything. So like developing your own preset early is probably crucial to like keeping your work cohesive.
How important do you think that is in general?
I feel like it's super important, especially for a photographer, because I just feel like the client looks at your page, they look at your website, and if it's not cohesive, then like they don't really know what they're going to get. It's like depending on the day or where you are, it's going to change, and it's really important that they already have an expectation of what their pictures are going to look like when they receive them. And I feel like if you have a cohesive, color schemes and like your white balance and people's tones of their skin and things like that, which is a whole other conversation, because that takes time to like refine as well, because they can't hide when you're doing boudoir. So, but yeah, like they know what they're getting if you have a cohesive style.
Yeah. And is that something that you've always subscribed to? It's like a 50-50 like debate, I feel like, with photographers. Like, can I, choose to be way different depending on the shoot, or do I need the feed or my portfolio to all look the same?
So I feel like it depends on what you're doing. So when I shoot like other fashiony things, I just edit the photo however I want to edit it, with just whatever style I'm going for. It doesn't need to necessarily be like cohesive for that, because that stuff's just like for fun. And
you're not putting a hallway on like grass field.
I just like submit it to like fun magazines and stuff. Like I don't do those for like, clients or anything. I just kind of like have fun with it. Yeah. But for boudoir specifically, I just feel like it has to be cohesive.
Yeah, that is your thing.
Yeah, that's your thing. That's your style. And then also the person is already so like worked up about how they feel in the pictures. And they're just kind of like so vulnerable when they're waiting for the photos. Like they're just in this anticipation. It's like, so you just take a little bit less, like more stress off of them when they are like already kind of like, they know that your work.
Yeah,
Like
they can go to like something on your feed and be like, I could see my face on this photo, and I know that like I'm gonna like what's gonna come out of
like
Sam's editing.
I've had other boudoir photographers randomly see my picture in their feed, and they're like, I didn't even have to look at the name. I just knew that it was yours.
That's true.
Yeah,
I think that's true. When I look at my feed and I see you come by, I'm like, yeah, of course, it's Sam.
Yeah. So I think that also just, you know, people know then. They just know what they're getting.
It's easier for name recognition, for marketing down in the future.
Yeah.
What does marketing look like for you? Like, what is lead acquisition? You talked about how most of it's through Google and referrals, but like, what do you do for like the Google people to get them to come through the door?
So for Google people, I do Google ads. Yeah. It's a fight because once again, boudoir photography is like labeled as like the adult content.
Yeah, it's like explicit tag or something. Probably.
Yeah, it gets limited a lot. It's really hard to choose photos to put in the ads.
Is it like you have to choose a little bit more of like tasteful? I don't know if tasteful is the right word.
It's just like very cropped.
Yeah.
It has to be, it really depends on the type of lingerie the person's wearing or like how they're posed. It's just much more strict. Usually I have to use just like a cropped version of like someone's face, really. It's like, it's very ridiculous because I'm like, the Victoria's Secret ads are, you know, doing their own thing over here, but like I apparently cannot do that, you know? So it is frustrating, but that is, you know, I think when you're growing and you're starting and nobody knows who you are, you have to invest in a good marketing plan to like get known.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know? And so since I tried out like doing Instagram and Facebook marketing and stuff, and it just didn't really seem to go anywhere because they're so censored. I just can't imagine
that Instagram story ads or whatever, you know, or in feed. I feel like Instagram is just not the move for like Meta in general for like actual putting ads out there. I've heard a mixed bag of like, oh, this is my success story. But then also people more than those that have success are just like, I put $200 in this month and saw nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
And everything is a slow burn, I feel like, but still like $200 might be your marketing budget for the year if you're just beginning.
Yeah.
And to have that go away in 1 month or whatever with no success is a huge down for them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, starting a business is not cheap. When I started my business, the fact that I had to buy like a computer and the camera and the lens, and I have to pay for the subscriptions to Adobe and like all this stuff.
Those will
like,
get you good.
Yeah. Like, so when I first started, I probably spent like $15,000 on my, just like right here's 15 grand, boom, gone.
Upfront cost.
Right. And then on top of that, it's like, you know, just the reoccurring cost of everything.
Buying new cards, maybe like once a year.
Yeah.
Or something
And
like
then I just dedicated myself to like going into the like more luxury version of the boudoir. Like I had to, you know, buy things like different furniture from the studio. I started buying lingerie and like things like that. So like I really dedicated my money that I was any money I was getting to like just putting it right back into the business. So like I definitely started very much in debt, but that's just what you got to do if you're like really focused on making a business, you know.
And that's what you said. You said you have to just go for it. You have to start, because if you don't start, or you're 1 foot in or 1 foot out, it's like you might not see the fast returns that you're looking for. You have to be dedicated and know that you are willing to like lose money for the first year to see that 15K come back.
Yeah.
Like profit year over year, continually grow in the next coming years.
Yeah. And if you are one of those people that you don't have money to spend like that, like you can start slower. You do not have to go as the pace of everybody else. There are other opportunities like grants you can get, especially for artists. There's a lot more grants. If you're a woman, you're definitely going to get one because it's just easier for us.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Please, women, please take the money that like is waiting for you.
Yeah. And you know, you can always find people to start your portfolio like that will do things for free.
It's always about finding people at the same like level of you as you that could work together to both grow.
Yeah.
And whether that be at a silo event or any other like networking event that you can find, there's plenty of those for like entrepreneurs, even just to get your name in front of businesses too. I mean, that's different than boudoir. You can't just invite a boudoir, or you can't invite a business to a boudoir, I guess. But but like just like getting your name out there is just as important. And as an introvert, I'm like, I don't want to go to a networking event, but maybe there's a way that you can find someone else that's at the same level or wants to get into photography with you, or you guys can share a camera and take photos of each other and continue to get better. That there is always an avenue to do it for like free, if not nothing.
Yeah.
That'll get you started. And once you get started, you beat 99% of the other people that are trying to do what you're doing.
Oh, for sure. You just have to keep going.
It's consistency.
Just keep going.
It's bad. Yeah. It's so tough. You don't want to do it. You feel like if you started your photography page, you posted 4 times this month or whatever. Oh, I don't have any more images. I don't have anything else to post. It's like, post some of your bad stuff. Because honestly, it'll still keep that momentum going.
Yeah. You're still giving the algorithm what it wants.
Yeah. And whether that's a good thing to feed the beast or not, whatever. But I mean, to be in front of people's eyes, that's what everyone wants nowadays. That's what you have to do. And it's a necessary part of what it looks like to be a business owner, I feel like now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
What does it look like to land this plane here, Sam? What should we tell the people that just want to be the fullest version of themselves, similar like how you're trying to just grow to be, you know, who you are today and just continue to move forward?
Just stop limiting yourself. You know, in all aspects of your life, you have control. I mean, this life is so short. It goes by in a flash. The older I get, the faster it's going. And if you really want to live with 0 regrets when you're done, then you need to just start and you need to never stop. And don't let anything else get in your way. Like, just overcome those obstacles as they come and learn from your mistakes and ask for help and define who you are by all the cool things that you got to do.
Yes.
And just like everything else, just it's nothing, you know?
I mean, I think something that I posted about like almost a year ago to this day is that like I let my like high school friends or like people in my high school that I haven't talked to in like 5 years control what like I posted about like my business. Like I let, and they weren't even like telling me that I'm sucking or whatever. It was just like, should I post more about like my photo gigs? Like what is Emma? What is Tyler? What is whoever, you know, Madeline or whatever? What do they think about what I'm posting? I'm like, I haven't talked to them in 7 years. Why does it matter what they think? They're probably not even looking at everything that I'm posting. So why are you letting the 3 haters or the 3 people that still have a grasp of you in your head control what you're doing right now? Yeah. And then reassess, like, when have I talked to them? When have they expressed that like they don't believe in me? It's probably never. They probably never did, but you just have this mindset of that. Yeah. It's like, what are you going to do to get rid of the negative voices? Some negative voices are needed. Obviously, you need people that check you. And if you're like moving way too fast in a direction that might not be good, you're spending way too much money on photography gear to get started and your savings are draining or whatever, probably not the smartest thing. But if you do it in an efficient, right capacity, like you're going to have the people that you want to hear most cheer you on. Yeah. Yeah. And I've also lived by what you're saying of like, I don't want to turn 45, 60, whatever, and be like, my 20s were a waste. I spent too much time thinking about what I should be doing as a this year old and less on like, why didn't I jump out of a plane when I was 27? Why didn't I meet this person when I was 22? Why didn't I meet this person? Why didn't I like start this business when I was 30? Whatever. Like, I don't want those regrets. So that's why starting something, even if it's terrible, is still a huge win.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We're not meant to just like hang out here on this little blue planet and then die hating ourselves, you know,
And that
like
doesn't mean like, that doesn't even mean we're talking about business either.
yeah, it's like
Because it
anything.
matters. Yeah. Like you're doing traveling, not for a business thing, but to actually escape and live a human life and like not
Yeah.
a businesswoman's life.
Yeah. I get to decompress when I travel. I don't have to be responsible for any person, even my little people that I love. I don't have to be responsible for them because they're not with me. I just get to go and be myself for like a little amount of time. And I also get to do things that I just want to go do and go see. And I just make other things happen for myself instead of just going through my day-to-day life, always doing the same thing, never challenging myself, never changing anything. It's just, I think people kind of get in like a rut because they just continue on that path. And yeah, even for business, you just got to like change it up sometimes.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of risk. Stop envying everybody else's perfection, quote, you know, like, yeah.
Live to work, work to live. I think you don't live to work, you work to live. And I think that our photography businesses allow us to live abundantly, allow us to live in the spaces that we want to. That's part of the cost of doing business of like, hey, I do want to travel, so my prices are going to have to be up here to allow me to do the things that I want to do with my human life and less of a business life or necessity career life or whatever that looks like. So I always look at like my photo sessions after I'm done paying the bills with whatever it takes to get there. I'm like, oh yeah, this portrait shoot allows me and my wife to go out to like a nice dinner or something.
Yeah.
Like it's a fun like, ooh, how like not how many can I do to like afford a vacation, but at the same time I'm like, yo, I just like I don't. It's a weird thing. It's like, when you get married, do you like tell people that like I want a honeymoon fund and like you know where their money is going? It depends. Some people like to sow into your life in a tangible way of like, it's so cool that like this money is going towards a vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know if I tell my clients that. I don't, but like, it's still like, hey, this like video gig that I'm doing this Thursday is allowing me to take a week off from photo gigs in a month to be able to do stuff, which I think is a more fun way of looking at it, as long as you don't have to like grind for what you want too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything's a balance. Yeah. Like work-life balance, school-life balance, whatever, husband-life balance, you know, it's just, everything has to be balanced because if it's not, it gets chaotic, you get disorganized, things get forgotten, you get tired, then you start making excuses. And then it just like, you just keep going down the rabbit hole, you know, of negativity pretty much. So the only way to stay on top of it is to just keep the balance, whatever that means for you. If you need to go do yoga, if you need to hang out with friends, if you need to play video games, whatever your thing is, just to make sure you're doing a little bit of it.
What does it look like for you to be at an imbalance? What is something that like you have fumbled in your career photo business that like you wouldn't want people to go through that you went through? What is like a mistake that we can humanize you, because we've been talking too highly about you for this last few hours?
Let's see. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly like in my business, but I mean, I do struggle with anxiety. I have it. I mean, you know, the one capture I came to, I decided to just kind of like hang out in the corner. I didn't really want to shoot because I just was having too much like social anxiety. And so just because I'm over here like, hey, you should be confident and like all that, everyone has their struggles with things. So anxiety is one of my things. Even on days when I'm definitely wake up and I feel like I'm having an anxious day automatically, if I have a shoot, I still just, you know, you just have to power through. You just have to do the things you need to do that help you with your anxiety. I go for like mindfulness walks outside.
That's good.
Or it's called a progressive muscle relaxation, where you like clench up different parts of your body while you're like breathing and stuff to like relax yourself. And so, yeah, even on days when I have shoots, I just take care of that anxiety, put it on the back burner. I got to do what I got to do for my client. I got to give them the best experience, because not only is this just helping my business, but it makes me feel good to like help that other person, especially when they are all so nervous when they come in. So, you know, it's like I have to get over my own to be able to get these people to like feel good too.
We're in the service business, you know, it is very social at times, and you have to give your all, like a good facade even through hard times, and even if that means crashing hard way after because that was just a lot or whatever that happens to me. I'm like, oh, I had a bad day, went to a session, I have even a worse day now, but like we're in the service business and the relationship making business and the human business, and it'd be different if we were behind a computer screen selling a product or something. But have grace for yourself. That's something. Have patience for yourself. That's something that Michaela said last season that really stuck with me. Of just like, yeah, it's gonna be hard at times. It's gonna be what it is at times.
Yeah, exactly.
But as long as you are aware of what you're going through, what you're feeling, I feel like you can come out of it better. So yeah. There's a lot to it. There's so much complexity to it all. Obviously.
There is.
But it's just a lot. People struggle with just like such a variety of things in our industry as well. And just to acknowledge that is something that is very common, and you're not like alone. When that anxiety hits you, when you're 2 years into your business and all of a sudden now you have it, or you're 5 years into your business and, you know, a loved one passed away, and like what you were saying about pausing, you don't have to end. You don't have to. It's a choice.
Yeah. Just because something brought you to a halt does not mean that it's failing. It just means that you're just taking a break. You know, I think a lot of people, they think that if the upward trajectory somehow stops, that means like they're just done. It's over with, you know, and it's like that. Take as long as you need, but you can always go back. You know, that experience that you have and all your knowledge doesn't just somehow poof out of your brain.
Especially as a creative. It's like you're almost, this is another debate, but you're either born with it or you built it up. So it's still there. Yeah. You know, unless you start losing motor function or like, you know, some kind of, brain thing. Yeah. Which we won't go there, but, but just in general, like, you will still have the exact same.
You still got the goods.
Opportunities.
Yeah.
Do you say the goods?
The goods.
Yeah, you still got the goods. You still got the brain goods. But it's gonna be awesome. Cool. Oh, cool. All right, we're landing the plane. We're going for an hour and a half at this point, Sam.
It's the longest episode. No, I'm just kidding.
No, honestly, it might be, which I hope continues this year. Okay, let's land the plane. Honestly, I think we got to a good spot, so I'm just gonna land it.
Okay.
My own centering techniques. Make sure I'm breathing. You still good on time for yourself? Okay, cool. Sam, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been unreal, like actually talking through so much. I feel like we have uncovered new like levels of knowing each other, but then also just like exploring the deep together, which is something that I hope continues this season. Yeah. There's a lot of intricacies and complexities that we've talked about, and just hope that the people listening got something out of it. I know I did, figuring out pricing, and I'm so thankful that you were like just transparent about that, because not everyone is, but like that's what the whole point of this podcast is about, to like actually get to know the people in our community, and you've been a part of it for however many years at this point, so it just seems natural to have you on and be a part of something like this.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. It was a good time.
Cool. Thank you.